This is Jerome Kern tune of the week 15, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. It's a very famous tune of his, but not very often played in jam sessions in jazz situations, in my experience anyway. But it's obviously a great tune, and it's a ballad, so we're gonna play it together as always. I think you know the drill by now. And as always, if you like this idea of learning Jerome Kern tunes or learning a tune a week, you can join me on Patreon and you get access to all Tune of the Week videos. So we'll play this together and then I'll talk a little bit about why this is a perfect tune to work on your ear training. But it's a ballad, so I'm going to use the Ebersold. But instead of trading the whole form, because it's a ballad, we'll trade sections. So I'll play a solo over an A section and then I'll comp for an A section and so on. And I think it's going to be 3 times through. And this is the Ebersold, Jerome Kern Ebersold, with the piano removed.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So I'll play a chorus or a section. You take an A section. I'll take a B section. Take a section. take this section now. First A. Harmonic major. Okay, so before we talk more about this tune, just listen to what it sounds like if I play the melody with the Kurt Rosenwinkel idea of either playing the root and the seventh or the fifth and the third as a comping voicings. So I play, that's the fifth and the third, right? Now the root and the seventh. Root and the seventh, fifth and the third, root and the seventh, root and the seventh. It's enough. That's really all you need. So I'm just playing, those are the fifth and the third, and then the root and the seventh. So sometimes it's better with the root and the seventh, and sometimes it works better with the fifth and the third, depending on what the melody note is. And it's because you can, he divides the chord into this, right? So that's his first chord is an E flat major 7. If I play it in a drop 3, on the bottom set of strings I get this, right? And I can play either those two notes or these two notes. But for the melodic note being E flat, it works much better with. I can do this all day. Here you can play like an F sharp going to F minor. If you want to do something more hip on that C minor, you can play a dominant to the F minor there. So this was very pretty. These are pretty changes, but I don't think these are the most common changes. In the iReal Pro, it's a little bit different, and I think those chords is more what I've seen. I played this tune a few times, but I've never really learned it until now. But I think I recognize these. So let's just play through those chords as well. So they sound like this. A little bit different there. So is this the same? A little bit different. And then going into the next here. That's the chord I've seen before. I think that's most commonly played chord there, but I really like the changes in the Abersold, so that's why I picked those. Just be aware of that people play different changes over this tune, especially the B section. So before I get into the ear training thing, let's just read the Wikipedia says about this tune. Actually, let's look at the playlist. If you type in Smoke Gets In Your Eyes in Spotify, I get Margaret Whiting, which I've talked about that album before, right? Like it's a Jerome Kern tribute album, really, really good. The Platters had a very, like a pop hit with this tune, so that's a good one. It's not a jazz version, but it's really good and worth listening to. Clifford Brown, Nat King Cole has recorded it, I think. It's an instrumental version. Keith Jarrett's trio, I need to check that out. Coleman Hawkins, Sarah Vaughan, Clifford Brown, Harry Belafonte, Art Tatum. Yeah, a lot of people have recorded this tune. Paul Whiteman, yeah. Oscar Peterson, Thelonious Monk. But let's read what Wikipedia has to say. Smoke Gets In Your Eyes is a show tune written by American composer Jerome Kern and lyricist Ada Harbach for the 1933 musical comedy Roberta. It was first recorded by Gertrude Nielsen, and the line "When your heart's on fire, smoke gets in your eyes" apparently comes from a Russian proverb. When your heart's on fire, smoke gets in your eyes. I bet you didn't know that, where it's coming from. Paul Whiteman had the first hit recording in 1934. There was a film adaptation of this musical co-starring Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. Tommy Dorsey Orchestra released their version. Yeah, a lot of people have recorded this tune. Alright, so what was the ear training thing I wanted to talk about? This is a good tune to work on ear training because the melody kind of jumps around intervallically. It's not always stepwise. So what I want you to try to do, and I've shown you this kind of way of practicing before, and I think it's not only important but essential if you want to consider yourself, if you want to become a good musician. This is something you need to work on, in my opinion. So what I'll do is I'll play some kind of drone. You could make a drone with your, if you have a freeze pedal. I actually like this app called, I've also talked about that before, it's called Tampura Droid. and the key is E flat. We could pick any key, but let's do E flat. So that's the drone. Then you try to sing the melody with singing the scale degrees. So 1, 7, 2, 1, 6, and you want to check that you're correct. 4. I can't sing. 3, 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, flat 6, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 6, 1, 5, 6, 5, 5, 6, 3, 2, 1, 7, 2, 1, 6, 4, 3, 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, flat 6, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6. That's the tricky one for me. 1, 5, 6, 5, 5, 5. There it is. 6, 1, and then it changes key. So this tune actually changes key. So it wasn't clear to me that I should notate it like that. In the Abersol that I'm using, they are doing that. They wrote it in with 3 flats and then changed the key signatures. They don't always do that. In jazz it's a little bit difficult to decide sometimes which is the best way to notate it, but I thought this was the best way to do it. So it goes to B major in the B section, right? So a couple of things. How am I able to, if you find it, some of you are, this is gonna be super easy, right? Like, you don't, maybe don't get it, what's the problem? But if you can't do this, the way to work on it is like, some of the notes are chord tones, meaning they have a kind of a resting quality, and some of their notes are tendency notes, they want to go somewhere. So, the roots just want to sit there, but the 7 pulls back, right? That's how and 2 also wants to go back to 2, 1, 6 is the tennis note 2, 5, but in jazz the 6 is also kind of a 6, it's a kind of resting note. 4, right? 4, 3. So that's how I find it, because I know it's pulling to that 3. 4, 3, 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, flat 6. Here's the thing. That note is a little bit tricky to find, right? And here's my whole point. The difference between somebody who's really good and somebody who's not so good is that somebody who's a professional composer, arranger, or musician, they know exactly what that note is. Whereas somebody who is, guitar player, you can just put your finger there. But that's not gonna be enough if you want to really be a musician, because music should come from here, not from your fingers. If your finger is just going where you've programmed your fingers to go, you're not a musician is expressing him or herself, right? So the music should come from inside. This might sound kind of strange and esoteric, but I really believe in this. And if you can't hear that note, can you hear it inside your head? And also the difference between that note and that note, not just that it pulls to that note, but listen to how they sound. It's not the same note, you know what I mean? That might sound obvious, but you shouldn't play the note unless you hear it. And I mean hear in your inner voice. So, like a trumpet player needs, and a vocalist especially, needs to know what that note is, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like if you ever seen those videos or those CDs you could buy in the 80s. I think his name was David Lucas Burge, ear training super course to develop perfect pitch. If you ever listen to what he's talking about there, I listened to a lot of that stuff, but I never developed perfect pitch, but he's talking about that each note has its own kind of personality and he calls it color. And somebody with perfect pitch, it's color hearing. So you're hearing. So it's not enough to just hear that, oh, it pulls to that note, or to kind of, I think I hear it. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's really, really good. If you listen to Bobby McFerrin sing, any note he sings, you can tell that he's singing that note with perfect pitch. That's why he's so good. And a little bit of rant here, but a mistake a lot of wannabe jazz musicians do is that they, okay, I want to sound like Kurt Rosenwinkel, so I'm going to practice some hip Kurt Rosenwinkel shapes and arpeggios and flashy stuff. And that's good, that's great, I love that stuff too. But if you go to a jam and, you know, they play a tune and all you can do is, you've practiced this stuff, that's not going to help you. You know what I mean? But this stuff that I'm talking about here, the ability to sing a jazz tune, well, it's a show tune, but a tune that is often played in jazz, that has intervallic leaps and stuff, and to be able to sing it, not with a good singing, you don't need to have a singing voice, but if you can sing it with your instrument. I know this is gonna sound a little bit strange to a lot of people, but I think some of you are getting what I'm saying. You should maybe put aside, this is something I wish I'd done earlier, put aside all the fancy Chicoria licks and Michael Brecker licks. And I'm not saying you shouldn't practice that stuff, because I love that stuff too, as you know. But this is more important. If you have struggling, like you notice I did there, I wasn't sure. No, that's an interesting shape. If you can do that, you can also have control over the melody, and you can develop those motifs and stuff. I'm gonna stop there because I'm ranting too much. But that was Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and as I said earlier, if you want all the Tune of the Week videos, you can learn a tune a week on Patreon, and I have 50 Cole Porter tunes uploaded there. So, and I'm aiming, I think I'm gonna aim for 30 Jerome Kern tunes. This is halfway there. I think that's a reasonable number. We'll see. But that's what Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Thank you for your time and attention. I shall see you next time.